It's pretty exciting, not to be overly packaging nerdy, but there's so many changes that are happening for both businesses and consumers in packaging. It's an exciting time. So from a consumer perspective, I feel that we're probably at the greatest height right now where
Yeah.
companies that manufacture products need to listen to their consumers.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's segment right here on the Product and Packaging Powerhouse. I am your host and curator, Megan Young Gamble, Chief Project Officer at GLC, and also the host of this lovely industry podcast. And so, if this is your first time here with us, welcome to the house. If you are a returning member of listening to our audio and also checking out our video streaming platforms on YouTube and all of your favorite platforms, make sure you do hit that bell notification so you do not miss any of our episodes when they drop. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I am so excited to have today's powerhouse, Mr. Dustin Smith, which I have to say we're birthday twins because we're born on the same day, August 14th. And so I'm really excited to speak with him because he is the CEO and co-founder of BoldtSmith Packaging Consultants. Just to give you a little bit of background about Dustin, and we're going to have him share a little bit more about his background as well. But with him being this co-founder and CEO of BoldtSmith Packaging Consultants, they are experts in packaging solutions for corrugated, metal, and other sustainable materials. Of course, he's a proud graduate of University of Wisconsin-Stout with a degree in packaging, of course, and he has previously worked as a packaging engineer at Home Depot and other corporations as well. One thing that him and his business partner, as well as his cousin, identified after many years working in the industry is that they saw a need to actually work with companies to really optimize their packaging solutions and also helping them to get smart with their packaging, which is the BoldtSmith Packaging Consultants way. And so, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I want y'all to give a warm welcome to our powerhouse guest, Mr. Dustin Smith. So, Dustin, welcome to the house.
Thanks, mate. Glad to be here. I've been looking forward to our podcast today.
Yes, I'm excited too. And so let me just say, ladies and gentlemen, when I started my company, GLC, and I was looking for, different competitors and people to learn and see how to really start building out my practice, Goldsmith was one of the firms that actually inspired me to think about how to curate the brand, curate my brand, the level of information to provide on the website, how to share the case studies, and more. So, Dustin, I want to say you and your company has been an inspiration to me. So, to have this conversation with you is a true honor. So, I just want to say thank you for helping to invest into me and giving me the platform and foundation for my firm as well.
Yeah, well, it works certainly both ways. As I've listened to some of your other podcasts, and you do a fantastic job with those, and also your other content.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And I think that's where we learn from each other because we're always leveraging from other people in the space. And you're like, oh, I love what Dustin put up about, the different caps of this tube versus this tube, or how there's pallet overhang and how to optimize the packaging. So we're going to get into some of that. But before we jump right get into packaging optimization, Dustin, I would love for you to share a little bit more about your journey, your background, and what piqued your interest to come into the beautiful world of packaging?
Yeah, certainly. So it's pretty awesome. As you know, what you mentioned before is that my business partner, John Bolt, who's also my cousin, he's the whole reason why I got into packaging. So, after graduating in packaging, now we're teamed up as business partners. I kind of went full circle. But the biggest thing that we recognized in the world of packaging is that when I graduated school, I kind of assumed that, any kind of product manufacturer is that they had packaging engineers or entire team internally. And kind of what we discovered is that that's really not the case. A lot of companies that manufacture products, whatever it is, it could be, it could be a bicycle or it could be a shower door. A lot of them don't have packaging engineers internally. And that's kind of really the role that we come in and help them out from a packaging perspective.
I love that. And especially when you have a lot of companies now that are being more intentional about their packaging, their pack outs, especially with more increased demands from consumers, going direct to consumers to even retailers, because that's a whole nother topic,
Mhm.
with really trying to optimize packaging going into retail spaces and what that looks like in the whole conversation. So I want to give a shout out to your cousin, your business partner, the president of BoldtSmith Packaging Consultants, because I think there is power in partnerships, and I think you all are seeing that really in real time, as you've had BoldtSmith Packaging for over a decade now, and you're constantly building out your team of packaging engineers to serve as the fractional engineers for these companies. I think it's really profound and phenomenal what y'all are doing, especially with the various materials and industries you service. So I want to ask you, Dustin, with BoldtSmith Packaging Consultants, share a little bit about the type of industries you service and what are some of the common pain points you see from your customers?
Yeah, so it's pretty awesome is from a product category perspective, we work on so many different things, which is why we have our team
Mm.
of packaging engineers that really have different backgrounds. So kind of give you an example of that is we have a project right now for a company that's looking to increase the shelf life for cheese that they sell into retailers. And then on the opposite side of that is we're designing a 30-foot metal returnable crate for a submarine right now. So huge variety of packaging and product categories that we get involved in, which is awesome. It's really exciting. Our office, we're located right outside of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, is we have so many different products and packaging types that we're working on for different projects. It's pretty exciting that when we have guests come in, they're kind of blown away the stuff that we work on.
That is so cool. Now, the 30-foot submarine project, like that sounds really fascinating. And so, just curious, like as an entrepreneur, like how did you all decide to be very expansive, like with the industries that you service, to make sure that you're really thinking about packaging optimization, cost reduction, shipping optimization, and more?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting is that no matter the product category, really the purpose of the projects, a lot of them are very similar to whether it's cheese or a submarine, is that there's a packaging problem. So whether they're having damage during shipping, packaging costs too much, or maybe their freight costs too much, or maybe it's too much labor time to package their goods. There's some sort of packaging problem that no matter what the product category is, really the packaging needs to get optimized. And that's where we come in.
I love that. And so, do people find BoldtSmith Packaging Consultants like through word of mouth or from other clients that they possibly have gotten engaged with or partners? Like, how do people find out about you all?
Yeah, definitely a variety of sources. So certainly our website is a great way for companies to find us through searching online through Google or whatever the case may be. But
Okay.
then, a tremendous amount of information that we put out on LinkedIn, pictures, blog posts, et cetera. And then we're out there at expos, industry shows, et cetera, so that companies
Okay.
can easily find us when they do have a packaging problem. Because it is, a lot of times companies, they don't really know that a packaging engineer exists or a company that does this exclusively. So we really have to be out there so they can easily find us when they search for us.
Absolutely. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening and you possibly will need an assessment or audit of your packaging and see if it needs to be optimized, boldsmithpackagingconsultants.com is linked in the show notes for you all, as well as Dustin's direct LinkedIn information. So make sure you follow him because he has some phenomenal content that he posts. And I learn something from his posts every time he makes a post about something too. So check him out. So since we're talking about packaging optimization and companies are needing it, a lot of times you have to put yourself out there as a company and as an entrepreneur to get more awareness and get traction to know that you do exist to serve as the fractional packaging engineer team. So share with us, what is the Boltsmith packaging way when it comes to thinking about packaging optimization and what that approach looks like when you get engaged with a client?
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. So we have kind of what we would reference as a phased approach on how we handle projects. So let's say the company that's reaching out to us is they manufacture, a reusable water bottle, and they want to ship that in a more ergonomic, sustainable, cost-effective method. So one thing that we really pride ourselves is boots on the ground. So typically the first thing we're doing when a new customer reaches out to us, have to get into their manufacturing facility. I want to see their current packaging designs, materials, how they handle their product and packaging. Is it automated? Is it manual? How do they store it? Do they have racking? Are they double stacking pallets? What's their supply chain look like? All these questions we need answers to.
Mm.
And once we gather that information, then we get into our concepts. So let's say we're talking about this water bottle. There's, we could pack this thing in EPS, it could be in PE foam, it could be in corrugated, it could be in molded pulp. Let's create all those concepts, create the specs, gather the financial information for all of them to say these 5 different concepts, that's what it's going to cost for material, freight, and labor. From a data perspective, and this is the really big driver, from a data perspective, which one makes the most sense for your business? And then we'll use that data and then implement the packaging solutions in their facility. So it's really all the way from coming in their facility to scope out the project to when we're done with the project is the product and packaging is going down their manufacturing line and getting packed.
Wow. And so just continuation of that, like as you have boots on the ground, which I love because I'm part of that boots on the ground. I want to get my hands dirty and actually see the operations to offer the recommendations and solutions and using data, to help drive some of those decisions as well. So when you think about like in this case, the water bottle, and you're looking at the EPS foam, molded pulp, et cetera, even to the racking, do you also work with companies to think about shipping optimization? Because it can get manufactured, but then what about the distribution or the shipping aspect of it? How do y'all get involved from that aspect?
Yep, absolutely. That's definitely a huge portion of the business. So, designing the packaging for shipping is huge. So let's say we're continuing to talk about the water bottle is what's the height of this, the width and the length? How many can we get on a pallet? How many pallets can we get in your racking? How many pallets can we get in your truck? Or if it's manufactured overseas, how many can we get in an ocean container to maximize the amount of product that fits in during shipping to reduce, shipping costs? And then to kind of take it one step further is what if we change the size and shape of that water bottle? So let's say the water bottle
Mm,
that I have right here. What if we change the actual product dimensions of that to optimize it for shipping? So that is something that is huge that's happening right now, kind of an advanced packaging project is let's change your product for packaging and freight efficiency. So, with the cost of goods right now, how much it costs to ship product, et cetera, it's so important that companies are taking this kind of advanced look at packaging. So as an example that we just worked on a home appliance product that it has a handle on it. Well, the
mhm.
handle always came with it assembled. It's going to be disassembled now. And taking that inch and a half out of the package width, you're able to get, X number of more product in an ocean container times the ocean container by 50 units per year. It's a huge cost savings
Wow.
rate just by taking off that handle. So,
Wow. So, okay, so I have to challenge you on this one. So with this scenario with the home appliance that had the handle assembled and now is disassembled.
mhm,
So you have the cost reduction, which is phenomenal for packaging. You're able to get more packaging on a pallet. You're able to optimize the packaging in the different containers for freight, et cetera. But when it gets to the destination,
mhm,
whether it's the consumer that has to assemble this appliance or the handle, or if it's a fulfillment center or a
mhm,
retailer, like how does that cost impact like the final overall cost of goods? Do
mhm.
you all consider that, or like what would you recommend to a company like when they're asking those type of questions?
Yeah, that's a really good question and very important for this specific example we're talking about. So the way that we handle that is we supply the data to our customers to say, if you did ship this appliance with the handle on it, this is going to be your total cost of goods, how many get into an ocean container, freight costs, et cetera. If you shipped it without it, this is what it would be. Now, your
Mm,
internal team, marketing, branding, sales, quality, engineering, you have the data to now make an informed decision where historically we've seen companies before make a decision in the past say we'll never ship it without a handle,
okay.
but they don't know the financial impact of making that decision. And we
Mm,
take it so far that decisions need to be driven by data to, especially when
absolutely.
you're talking about huge volume. You're selling a million
Absolutely.
of these units a year. We need to talk about it from a data perspective.
Absolutely, because if it I tell people it's almost like the rap song, if it don't make money, it doesn't make sense. But it's like if you don't have data, it doesn't make sense in this case.
Right.
So I think that's something really profound. And I really love that example because in my experience, I work in health and beauty, and
Mhm.
that's one of the industries you all service with consumer packaged goods as well at BoldtSmith. And so one of the things that some of my clients ask me is, well, should we have it be assembled or not assembled, but assemble it at the fulfillment center or have it be, have it get assembled somewhere else or put the responsibility on the consumer? And so that's where I'm like, okay, let's bring all the stakeholders in. Let's look at the total cost of goods. Let's see what is the actual optimal experience for the customer, but what is the cost savings we're really looking to evaluate and have as well for the packaging. And also, how do we want to prevent any chargebacks? Because in the beauty world, we get a lot of chargebacks if things are
Right.
not properly assembled, too. So we want to help mitigate those problems as well. So it's a big conversation. So it seems like we're doing a lot of the similar approaches, when we're working with our said clients to make sure that we're offering the right solutions and determining what's the best approach. So I love that. So as you mentioned data about 5 times already. So I want to ask you because data is something so important that we all need. And like I said, if we don't have the data, it doesn't make sense to make the decision. So at BoldtSmith and with your team, like what data are you all using to help with helping these companies make these informed decisions to know how to optimize their packaging, shippings, optimization, cost reductions, and more?
Yeah, that's a good question too. So a lot of times, actually, I shouldn't say a lot of times, a portion of the times, the customer might not have the data that we're looking for. And if that's the case,
Mm.
we'll find it for them. So, some very basic data is, annual volume, manufacturing locations, what the supply chain is, what are your packaging costs, what are your freight costs, what are your labor costs. And these basic pieces of data really gets our hands around what is this packaging project? How are we going to attack it? So as an
Mhm.
example of that, let's say we're talking about the water bottle again. If their annual volume is 5,000 units versus 1 million units, those are very different packaging solutions. The 5,000 unit, it's probably a fabricated packaging solution. You don't want to open a tool for that, something off the shelf. Or the million units, it might justify opening a tool to have the most possibly effective packaging possible.
Yeah.
So those very
Okay.
kind of preliminary data points gives us a good starting point for projects.
Okay, nice. And with any type of data and technology nowadays, I have to ask this question, or does your company leverage AI in any form of capacity to help with extracting data? And if so, like what would that look like?
Yeah, we do. So, the data that we get, especially for very large companies, you can get a tremendous amount of data. So, let's say a company that manufactures globally, they might have 50 manufacturing plants around the world, hundreds of packaging SKUs at each of those. It's a
Mhm.
tremendous amount of data. So, certainly manually, we can filter through that. But through the use of AI, it also makes it a lot more efficient from a time perspective. So, we
Mhm.
do utilize that. And then also the data, it can be difficult to pull. So sometimes a very large company is they might be using multiple systems as far as how they're storing the data. So then it even makes it more complicated to justify
Yeah.
the use of AI or something like that.
Makes sense. And I had to ask that question because we see the influx of AI being heavily utilized, even for how we operate day to day, right? So, even with now AI being incorporated slowly at the MRFs, slowly being incorporated for packaging manufacturing, slowly being incorporated for consumer trends and data, we're seeing an influx. So, I had to ask that because data is so important, but how can we crank it out to be more efficient and be more productive to help make those more informed decisions
Mhm.
quicker? Leveraging AI, I think is something really good. So I like AI. Some things not as much, but that's a whole nother topic. I'm not gonna get into that today. But with that, it's really important. I think that is really profound that y'all are using, some of the baseline data to help make the informed decisions like freight costs, labor costs, annual volume, et cetera, but also using AI incorporated to help extract the data quicker to help
Mhm.
make the informed decisions and stuff as well.
Mhm.
So I really like it. So let me go back to the basics because some of my listeners, some of them know about packaging optimization, but some of them are like packaging optimization. What does that even mean? So I'm sorry to those who are not familiar with that term. I should have started there. But Dustin, share with us what is packaging optimization and what does that mean?
Yeah, so the way that I would define packaging optimization is really developing the best possible packaging solution. So, as an example of that, like let's say what water bottles are now. You buy a water bottle, you open the cap, it spills water all over the place. That's packaging optimization gone too far, in my opinion. They're taking all the cost out of packaging, and that's because it's a very inexpensive product and it potentially could make sense. But they've taken all the cost out of packaging. Really, to me, what it means is that balance between packaging performance and product branding, marketing, sustainability, et cetera. So there's a lot of things that go into packaging optimization, but really the goal of that is to have the best possible packaging solution. for not only yourself as the manufacturer, but then also for the customer experience and sustainability.
Oh, and so those are my startup brands. A lot of you all are just getting started that are listening to the podcast, and you're gaining content from powerhouses like Dustin and other people that's been on the podcast. Leverage these techniques and the tips and the strategies that they're giving you,
Mhm.
because they are working with some of the top brands. They do this extensively day in, day out. Dustin has been operating his company alongside his business partner and cousin. I believe they play golf together, but I don't know. But with that, they've been seeing what's going on in the marketplace, operating their business for over 11 years. They see what's happening out here. So please leverage these things that the powerhouses are sharing with you all. And that's why I started the podcast, because I do believe that regardless of scale, there's something that every one of you all can take away from every powerhouse that comes on here, regardless of who they're working with. Now, we do have the executive and the directors and the VPs that are listening to the podcast too, and they need help too. So that's why it's universal. But for my startup brands, please leverage these tips and the techniques and incorporate them. You may not be doing million volume right now, but you may be doing 1,000. So what Dustin mentioned about packaging optimization, which is developing the best packaging solution, is gold. And so
Mhm.
start with where you are right now and be okay to evolve and grow, then scale to get to that million unit volume that Dustin talked about. So, Dustin, I appreciate you for sharing that and giving your definition of it, because startup brands, I don't think they get it. They hear about it, they're reading it in different magazines, beauty packaging, beauty matter, packaging world, etc., but they don't really grasp the concept of what it really means. So I appreciate you for having me go back to the beginnings and
Mhm.
share the baseline of what that means, from your personal experience. So, since you mentioned about really an intersection of packaging performance, sustainability to have the right solution, I want to
Mhm.
get your take. What's your thoughts around sustainability?
Yeah. So I have an interesting viewpoint, I would say, on it. Is, there's so much buzz happening around sustainability right now. There's all kinds of
Mhm.
different packaging materials that are getting introduced that are sustainable, or at least in theory they are. I
Yeah.
believe the most sustainable packaging solution is one that is cost effective for material, freight, and labor, but then also has as minimal environmental impact as possible. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's 100% recyclable or biodegradable. So give you an
Mhm.
example to kind of talk specifics is we worked on a project for a company that sells very high volume into Home Depot, Lowe's, Walmart, et cetera. And
Mhm.
they're getting pushed right now as a private label company to get rid of EPS. So they had hundreds of SKUs that we redesigned that go into Home Depot and Lowe's, et cetera. After we work on a project like that, we do the sustainability impact study on it. So what is the actual impact? What's the difference between your old packaging and this new packaging? So old was new is molded pulp. And when we
Mhm.
ran the analysis, typically has got red X's all over it, never use EX, it's terrible material in comparison to molded pulp, which is 100% paper based. It
Yeah.
was very, very similar. So when they made this
Mhm.
transition from a sustainability impact, it really was kind of a wash. So that's not going to be the case all the time from EPS to molded pulp, but it certainly can be. And the way that you find that out, once again, is data-driven decisions. So does it
Mhm.
make sense to do this from a marketing perspective, or does it make sense to do it from a sustainability, engineering, quality perspective? So there's a lot
Yeah.
long-winded answer, but there's a lot of buzz around sustainability. We take a very material agnostic approach to it as far as what is the best solution for your company. Sustainability in some ways, with the cost of goods right now has taken not a backseat, but it's certainly the priority of it has maybe shifted back a little bit as more companies are focusing not as much sustainability, but as cost savings. We need cost savings.
Mhm.
If it can be a sustainable solution in parallel, even better, but we need cost
Mhm.
savings.
Wow. And I think that's something really, really good that you mentioned around your definition of sustainability, because guys, we all have our own definition of sustainability. And I think that really depends upon which business sector we're in and how we're really cultivating the different solutions. So marketing, like Dustin mentioned, has one approach on sustainability. No shade to my marketing people. I love them. They have a purpose, but they're we're thinking about sustainability to appease to the end consumer. Whereas we on the other end, like Dustin and myself, we're thinking about sustainability from cost reduction to the different materials to, like he mentioned, conducting the impact analysis to really determine what is the right solution for the marketplace. So how we evaluate things for Sephora with clean planet positive
Mhm.
versus Ulta clean beauty, those are different requirements, different guidelines versus Whole Foods, so we have to look at those things too and really determine, is it really sustainability we're looking at? Is it cost savings? Or is it something we want it to be really shiny, pretty, the most elegant thing that's not even fitting for either of those aspects for sustainability? So,
Mhm.
guys, we all have our own definition. That's really the ultimate point here. But I think to your point, really with the example that you gave where you evaluated the EPS foam versus molded pulp with your sustainability impact analysis, I think that's something really profound because we're seeing more brands not wanting to use EPS
Mhm.
and go to molded pulp for it to be more recyclable, more sustainable, everything of that sort. But does it make sense? So now I would tell them, hey, let me put you in contact with Dustin so he can do the actual assessment and
Mhm.
help you determine how to optimize your packaging and determine if sustainability makes sense for your company or if it's the cost savings that you're looking for. So I think that's something really good. And so to continue on around sustainability, because I know you're really passionate about this, and also on BoldtSmith's website, you all have the tagline, green is nice, net green is nicer.
Mhm.
So share a little bit around that company's philosophy and how you prevent greenwashing around sustainability and how you attack it holistically.
Yeah. Yeah. So I like your list of questions. They're very good. So
Thank you.
the net green approach that we take to packaging is we're pretty candid people. And like I've said before, we're very data driven. So, things that kind of try to get slid by from a greenwashing perspective, we don't really allow that at BoldtSmith Packaging and how we approach packaging. So, some of the materials that are out there, let's say it's made from, let's say, mushrooms. Well, a company that manufactures 5 million ceiling fans a year, they're not going to transition to mushroom packaging. It's
Mhm.
it's not going to happen at any time in the near future. In long distance, perhaps, but not in the
Yeah.
near future. So the net green approach that we take to packaging, it's really developing those optimized packaging solutions that fit our customers' needs. And one thing I wanted to touch on too that we haven't talked about is product damage and how it ties into
Mm.
sustainability. So, if a company went to 100% recyclable packaging solution, that may or may not get recycled, but the product has a 10% damage rate and it was at 2% before, is that more sustainable? And we kind of make the point that, let's run the numbers and see what it is. But in most
Yeah.
cases, it's not. It's really important, not only from a customer satisfaction perspective, but you have to remanufacture the product, reship the product, new packaging. That's a lot of, an impact on sustainability. So
Yeah.
we try to really tie in product damage with net green, our approach to sustainability.
Think that's something. And so, guys, Dustin actually posted a post on LinkedIn. So make sure you go follow him. His LinkedIn direct link is down in the show notes. So you can follow his post as well as BoldtSmith Packaging Consultants. But one of his posts talked about, I think it was a corrugated box and had some water damage. And you
Mhm.
talked about the cost bit, the cost analysis of getting this package reshipped to the customer. And also what it took to produce that product and
Mhm.
also the packaging. So he did like a quick rundown of here is the total cost of goods to produce this one package. Because of the actual product damage or water damage in this case, we now have to pay expedited shipping. That's
Mhm.
additional cost. We now have to repay expedited fees to get it reproduced. That's more cost. So ultimately, like he said, is the 10% and the 2% that we're seeing respectfully eating cost savings? No, you're actually paying more. So, guys, that's why I said Dustin is a wealth of information because even for me, I stay a student in this industry. I have to, because things are evolving so much. And so, even looking at his posts, I gain insights of, okay, I get it. Like, those are different things that I now ask my clients or having them to think about too, just from that one post. And even like the two tubes where you looked at the two different caps that are different sizes in the heights, even for that in beauty. I'm like, yeah, like one of my cleansers has a really tall PE bottle, PE cap, and one has more of a slimmer profile cap. It helps give it a lower profile, but it helps with the pack out for the master shippers when we pack it out. So with that, it's these different things that you guys don't think about. And I think that is something so phenomenal because we all are in our different sectors, but we learn and leverage from each other in the space. And so with BoldtSmith Packaging, where they talk about green is nice, net green is nicer, and not doing the greenwashing, I can appreciate that because quite frankly, I'm tired of seeing greenwashing around sustainability. I'm putting it out there. I'm just being honest. I'm tired of seeing it. And that's why I'm like, I love my marketing people, but sometimes it's fluff. And I'm like, let's just get rid of the fluff and let's just get to the facts. That's it. So I'm gonna leave it at that for that topic. But I think that's something really good. And you really keep emphasizing data, using data to drive the decisions, to see how it fits and determine the packaging optimization, help with product damage around sustainability, helping with cost savings and cost reduction opportunities to shipping optimization. So something really big. And so last question on sustainability, because, many companies, brands, and retailers alike are all wanting sustainability, right? Target, Walmart, they have their own sustainability initiatives. Home Depot, Lowe's, they have them. Whole Foods have them. Sephora, Ulta, everybody has them. And now companies are now having their own internal ESG goals, right? And so as part of that, with just more so on packaging, when you have packaging EPR, SB 54, ocean bound certifications, and more, how do y'all really think about all these regulations and guidelines, retailer requirements, when you're starting to think about if sustainability makes sense for your customers?
Yeah, there's a lot there. So when you talk about a customer selling into retailers, a lot of retailers, they don't necessarily have the same goal. So what do you do when you're selling into multiple retailers? How do you handle this? Are you having separate packaging SKUs for each retailer? It
Yeah.
becomes a mess from a packaging logistics perspective. So to handle something like that, that's where it really makes sense that you need someone that's specifically in packaging. And
Mm.
whether in our customer base, some of our customers have packaging engineers. They might have an entire packaging team. The other, maybe other customers don't have anyone internally. But either way, what we discover, getting on a slight tangent, but what we discover is that even if a company has a packaging team or a packaging engineer, a lot of times they're at their headquarters. So they're putting out day-to-day fires that are happening. The manufacturing plants might be out across the world or across the United States. How often can that person get into the manufacturing facility to work on a project? I live that life. It doesn't happen. So we kind of
Mhm.
look at it as the, internal packaging team or packaging engineers. They're kind of the police officers that are handling the day-to-day operations, making sure there's not chaos in the streets, which is great. You need that. But then also what we are is we're more of the SWAT team. So there's a very specific situation that's happening. You bring us in and we will handle the situation. So to back to your original question, there's a lot of things happening right now from a sustainability perspective across all these
Yeah.
retailers. It's so important that companies are spending the time and resources to make sure that their packaging is really dialed in for all these sustainability initiatives that are happening. And we've talked
Yeah.
about just domestically. If you're also shipping your product overseas to, like, let's say England, Europe, et cetera, there's a whole new different regulations that are happening over there. So it's
Yeah.
definitely not something a company can ignore. There needs to be action taken on it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because it's a lot, like you said, just to manage and stay abreast of everything happening domestic, stateside. When you start shipping to UK, England, China, Australia, wherever in the world, it's a whole nother can of worms that we open up and we have to really think about it. And that's where it goes back to the brands and some of the challenges some of my brands have is what markets are we launching into? Like that's the beginning point before we do anything, because we need to know how we're setting the foundation and also the roadmap of how we're going to execute the packaging solutions and who's going to be the manufacturers. How do we get them involved? What does that look like for cost reduction, freight costs, labor costs, et cetera, like you mentioned. So with that, it's just like we have to really think about the full picture at the beginning. And I really love how you preface your team as a SWAT team. I love that because, your boots on the ground. And even with companies having packaging engineers and a packaging team, look at our workforce. Let's be honest. A lot of them don't have the capacity right now to handle going and being boots on the ground, to go and do inspections and stuff like that. So I want to ask you, because I did see this on your website and you kind of hinted on it, is about staffing augmentation. Like if a company was to need some additional support, even with their own packaging team, like how can you all intersect with the company to help them with staffing and being the SWAT team as the boots on the ground?
Yeah, so sometimes companies, maybe someone leaves the company that they're working at and they need someone really to fill in as a packaging engineer for 3 months while they search for this full-time person. So certainly we can fill that. And it works out really good. And a lot of times the customers just keep us on afterwards.
Okay.
Because, to have a full-time person would not necessarily specific to packaging, but just in general, it's very expensive.
It
That
is.
sometimes it makes sense just to have a consultant, a third party, that instead of working 40 hours a week or 50 hours a week, whatever it is we work 10 or 15 hours a week and we accomplish what they're looking for. And in packaging too, is that internally at our company we have all the design software and then also a sample making table that can cut out spit samples and then
Mm,
we complete the testing. So in my experience, most companies don't have that internally to whatever company they're at, and they have
yeah.
to lean on their packaging suppliers to do that. We can just do
Mhm.
that for them. So we can create all the design samples, complete the testing, and that way they own the packaging specifications, and then they can buy it from whomever they want. But yeah, staffing augmentation, we do that, and it works great.
Oh, so guys, I just heard like 2 to 3 additional benefits of BoldtSmith Packaging and how they can really intersect with your company. And the biggest thing that I really want to hone in on is that you all can actually do the sampling and the testing, and the companies own the packaging specifications. Because in my experience, unfortunately, we do have to rely on manufacturers to do that for us, versus having to be internal in some cases. And having that as an extra benefit where you can actually see the iterations of the testing of the samples, and you be able to own it and build out your own specification in your own repository. Y'all know I'm a project manager, so repositories are big for me to have the documentation and the data that we talked about on the podcast. I think that's something really big. So guys, if you're needing a fractional team, just hit up Dustin. His LinkedIn and the company's information is down in the show notes for you all, so y'all can get engaged with them. So whether you need somebody for 3 months or ongoing support, Dustin and his team at BoldtSmith definitely has you covered. So, Dustin, as we're starting to look at our time, we're going to be wrapping up here, but I have a few more questions for you. So, one of the things I want to ask you is you've been in the packaging industry for over 2 decades, right? You've seen the evolution of consumer packaging, you've seen the evolution of sustainability. What do you think are the most significant changes we're really starting to see around sustainability? And how do we approach it from a consumer lens and then also from a business lens? So I want you to give it from two different perspectives.
Yeah, that's another great question. So from a business perspective and consumer perspective, the changes that
Yeah.
are, it's pretty exciting, not to be overly packaging nerdy, but there's so many changes that are happening for both businesses and consumers in packaging. It's an exciting time. So from a consumer perspective, I feel that we're probably at the greatest height right now where
Yeah.
companies that manufacture products need to listen to their consumers. Because if they have bad packaging, let's say it's a terrible unboxing experience for they buy a new air conditioner and they open it up and there's EPS, it's flying all over their house and and it's just a mess. It's probably going to end up on YouTube or Instagram or something like that. And that is not good. You don't want to have your brand associated with that. So, having packaging that works great for the consumer for the unboxing experience, sustainability, it's cost effective. That's a huge portion right now that's happening in the world. And then from a business perspective, businesses are really tightening down on their margins. So,
Mhm.
cost of goods is so high right now that a lot of companies are going to, reduce, let's say it's a candy and it has 10 ounces of candy in it. Well, now it's 8 ounces. And it's like, well, you might have missed the boat a little bit from a packaging perspective. If you were to take that airspace out of your carton and get 40% more product on a pallet, 40% more product in a truckload, you might have not had to do that as far as taking out
Yeah.
that candy out of your box. You just optimize your
Mm.
packaging. So I think companies are really starting to understand that is there's a lot of power in packaging for cost savings, for efficiency, for better unboxing experience for the consumer. So there's all kinds of innovation that's happening out there right now. So it's a good time to be in packaging.
It is. It is. And I want to ask you about the innovations in packaging that you're seeing,
Mhm.
as you're really thinking about and curating packaging solutions and optimizing the packaging, helping with cost reduction, helping to mitigate product damage. Like what innovations are you seeing from your perspective? from your experience?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are happening, not only from a, I would say, material perspective, but also from a design perspective. We just worked
Mm,
on a project, huge number of SKUs, large volume. I think they were spending like $6 million in corrugated a year.
mm,
They reached out to us, come up with different packaging concepts for us. We want to, reduce our material for corrugated, see if we can have less corrugated utilized. When we got into it, it's like, well, you don't need corrugated at all. Let's just get rid of it. It's a totally different
wow.
packaging material, and it's, things like that, having an outside perspective, look at your packaging, like they would have never thought about that, most likely. But having someone
Yeah.
come in with fresh pair of eyes, like you don't need any corrugated, all that spend, it's all gone. It's in a totally
Yeah.
different packaging solution that's a lot more cost effective, sustainable, and a better unboxing experience for the customer.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the unboxing experience is something really big because I was one of those people that had the HVAC replaced. I had two of them replaced in my home. Was not, I didn't go on YouTube or publicly, bash the company because it was too darn hot here in Atlanta by the time I had both my HVAC units replaced and air ducts. So just know it was quite warm, very warm. But with that, it was EPS foam all over the house, debris everywhere, corrugated boxes everywhere. And I just remember that experience because I was like, oh my gosh, I remember when both my HVACs went out and we had to replace both of them and the air ducts in the full house. And so, yeah, I was one of those people where I could have done an unboxing experience showing all the stuff around the house, but I was just too damn hot. Excuse my language. I was just too damn hot to even focus on doing anything because I'm like, just put some air on. But I think to your point, unboxing experience for consumers is big. And even in beauty world, that drives everything,
Mhm.
from influencers, regardless of scale, ambassadors to even the everyday consumer. If it's D2C, even getting a package from Sephora. I just got one today, telling on myself. Anyways, so with that, like the unboxing experience is so big. And even with me working on behind the scenes, and I get products and I see all this void space for my lip glosses. I love lip glosses. Y'all know this if you've been listening to me for a while. I have hundreds of lip glosses. Another story for another day. But with that, it's so much void space in the boxes. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is a cost saving opportunity where you could be reducing this or shipping this in a much smaller box to help save on possibly freight and also, storage wherever. But when I see that, I'm like, I just get mad. Even for my Amazon packages, like it's a lot of void space in Amazon packages. So maybe there's an opportunity for BoldtSmith to go help optimize their packaging on some level. There's a Amazon headquarters here in Atlanta. Just saying.
I'll keep my lip seal on that one.
Okay, okay, we're gonna deviate away from that then. So with that being shared, I want to ask you as we're wrapping up our two final questions, maybe three. So you're so passionate about packaging optimization, right? And using data to help drive some of these decisions around it. When should companies consider optimizing their packaging?
That's a good question as far as the maturity of their company.
It could be maturity or if they're expanding into like different markets, like new retailers, like Home Depot, Lowe's, like in one of your other client scenarios.
Yep.
So various situations.
Yeah, so I would answer, I guess, two different ways. One, from a company size perspective, the startups, there's certainly opportunity to optimize their packaging. It might not make sense to leverage a company such as ourselves. In that
Hmm.
situation, I would really recommend that they start asking questions to their packaging suppliers, whether it's a bottle or tape or boxes or a pallet or stretch film that's going around it. Start asking questions. Start trying to
Yeah.
find opportunities for cost savings. Do you need all these deck boards on your pallet? What does your pallet supplier say? Can you take two off and it reduces the pallet cost by $1? It's great
Yeah.
cost. So, maybe handle some of that internally just by asking strategic questions. And now the
Hmm.
big companies that have annual volume, that's, a really good fit for us because it's all about return on investment. So a company
Yeah.
engages on a project, we want to provide cost savings to them or accomplish whatever goal that they're looking to set. So it's so important to kind of tackle that from a optimization standpoint, whether it's a small company or large company. But throughout it, certainly you can look at it for current product. How do you optimize your product and packaging for current product? But then when you're developing a new product, it's always a rush. Retailers want the product as soon as you can into their shelves, sell into their store, just get the product out there. The question is,
Yeah.
does anyone ever go back and optimize that packaging? And a lot of
Yeah.
times the answer is no, because they're already onto the next product, the next product, the next product. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of missing margin there with current product that never got optimized from a packaging.
Yeah.
So for me, optimization, it needs to be happening all the time.
All the time. See, you heard it from Powerhouse guest Dustin Smith. Optimizing your packages should be happening all the time. Okay. Does not matter what scale of business you're in. So I love that. Next question is around single-use plastics. What are your thoughts around it, especially with like packaging EPR and all these other regulations that are in place? Do you think plastic is bad or not sustainable?
We're going down a rabbit hole now. I think plastic, in my opinion, is great, but the way that it's handled right now for recyclability is not great. So, for example, the county that I live in, there's no recycling. They have no recycling. Everything goes to the landfill. That is
Mm,
really, really unfortunate, and it kind of makes me mad because that
yeah.
should be recycling opportunities. So if we don't really use single-use water bottles, but if we did, it's all going to go in the landfill for my particular county. That's
Yeah.
not right. So, ideally, what I would like to see, this is a huge undertaking, but a more robust, better recycling system for the United States. Will that ever
I
come? I have
100%
no idea.
agree. Yes. I tell people the same thing. So I'm in Metro Atlanta. I live in city of Smyrna, so not too far from Home Depot's headquarters. How we recycle things here in Atlanta or even in my municipality, city of Smyrna, quite amazed when I went to the recycling center and saw everything just going in the trash. And I
Mhm.
was like, "Well, why would you not recycle it?" Well, they told me a couple reasons. One, we don't have enough workforce to sit here and sort. So problem number one. Secondly, we don't have the infrastructure to properly sort and then store and put them in bales to ship them off to the next place. So, to your point, I personally feel that our recycling infrastructure definitely needs improvement because how you do things in Wisconsin, in your respective city and municipality, versus how we do things here in the South, especially in Atlanta, like there's not even recycling bins,
Mhm.
so everything just going in the trash. When I went to Canada, there is no trash on the ground at all. Recycling bins everywhere, recyclable bags. You have to buy the bags. There's no plastic. Like it's amazing. So I think we can agree the recycling infrastructure definitely needs some improvement. It's going to be a huge undertaking, like you said. So I can definitely agree with you there. But I think how can we start incrementally incorporating some of the best practices we're seeing in Washington, seeing in Oregon, seeing in Maine, that can slowly matriculate through the US so we can all be on one accord. It's be a
Mhm.
huge undertaking. But when we have EPR and all these other packaging regulations and now getting single use plastics being banned and being talked about, how do we put these things in place? So I just had to ask your perspective on it, as you're thinking about optimizing packaging and looking at various materials too. So I think that's something that we really all have to contribute to this. It's a huge undertaking, but slowly but surely we'll get there. So final question for you, Dustin. You ready?
I'm ready.
Ready. Okay. Stays ready. So with you being an entrepreneur, you stay busy, traveling, managing your team, finding the right packaging solutions. You also stay busy as a family man with two toddlers, or
Mhm.
3 and 5, respectfully. So how do you balance professional and personal life when you have two little ones that run your household?
They are wild banshees, let me tell you. Yeah, life is all about balance. And one thing that I learned from my dad is that you have to have good work-life balance. So for me, I usually wake up very early and I complete my tasks. So let's say whatever it is I have to complete for the day. If I finish and it's 2 p.m., the rest of the day I'm spending time with my wife and my two kids. So it's
Love
really
that.
have a good balance between those. And it helps out a lot to have a wife that's an absolute rock star too.
Hey, shout out to the wives. Okay. I tell my husband that too. I'm like, you don't understand how much of a rock star you have right here. But he tells me that too. He's like, you are the rock star. Because also my husband has a pallet company. So when you were talking about the pallets and removing 2 deck boards or doing longer inch boards, going from a 4 inch board to a 6 inch board, we look at those situations and offer solutions to our clients too to find any cost saving opportunities and such like that too. So y'all check out me and my husband, my bays podcast for our 10-year anniversary we just celebrated as well. But with that, as wives, we're the rock star. So shout out to your wife for being the rock star and supporting you on your entrepreneurial journey and holding down the two little ones at the house as well with you. So that is phenomenal. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've talked a good bit about packaging optimization, sustainability, and also what we're seeing here in the marketplace with new innovations and some common challenges we're seeing from Dustin Smith's perspective. And so, as we're going to be wrapping up our segment for today, we like to get into what's known as our power round. So, this is something where we're talking 60 seconds of fun, fast facts about our powerhouse. And I'm going to give you a little bit of context about what Dustin submitted to me. Okay. So, some of his questions is he is the father of two incredible kids, 3 and 5 year olds that run the household alongside of him and his wife. He is a tournament bass fisherman and he is a barbecue aficionado. So, with that, based upon those fun facts, I'm going to put 60 seconds on the clock and I'm going to ask Dustin a few questions to see how he's able to respond to them in this lightning round. Dustin, you ready, sir?
I'm ready.
You born ready. Let's
Give me
get
the
it.
best you got.
Okay, that's I got. Let's see. Okay, let's go. As a tournament bass fisherman, what has been your biggest bass catch to date?
Oh, that's easy. 11 pounds, 2 ounces. Lake Chickamauga in
Ooh,
Tennessee.
ooh, that is a big one. Okay. So, if you were a barbecue pit master, what would be the name of your grill and your infamous barbecue dish?
Oh, that's a tough one. I would say endless barbecue. That is just
Endless barbecue.
it's all you can eat. It's like a buffet.
Ooh, I love those barbecue spots. Let me know when you open it up, okay?
Yeah.
So, as a proud father, what is the best activity you and your family enjoy doing together?
Oh, well, it really combines all of that together. It's fishing and barbecue and then on a boat. So that's like the
Ooh,
best scenario.
I love it. So everybody's going to Bass Pro Shop and then going on the boat and then eating. Love
Right.
it. The best combination. Okay, in 7 seconds, describe get smart with packaging.
Optimize your packaging.
Love it. And then products and packaging are essential because fill in the blank.
Packages are essential because everything that's manufactured needs a package.
Boom. Get there. Easy money. Easy money. You did that, Dustin. I love that. 11 pounds for a bass. Like
What
that's
about
pretty
you?
large. I'm sorry.
What about you? What's your personal best bass?
Oh, I don't fish, so I just eat the fish.
That
I
sounds
don't
good.
fish. Yeah, I know about it. I've seen them. I've watched the tournaments and such. I'm from Arkansas, so we would see people like fish all the time. Arkansas, Tennessee, Texas, and Georgia. But I personally do not fish, but I eat the fish.
That's understandable.
Yeah. But now barbecue, oh yeah, like if you can put up the buffet, endless barbecue, you have me there.
Yeah.
I'll bring a side. If you have all the meats and we'll throw down.
We used to go to a place all the time by the Home Depot headquarters in Marietta. I can't remember the name of it. Now it was so good.
Really? Let's see. We have Thompson Brothers. They changed the name. This is it barbecue. So probably that one.
Do you
'Cause
remember
they were close to Home
well,
Depot.
we're getting somewhat sidetracked right now, but Ray's on the River, which is a restaurant.
Oh,
It's
yes,
like
it's
right down.
heirloom barbecue.
Yeah.
Heirloom barbecue. They're still there in the gas station,
Yeah. Yeah. That was the place. The line would be all the way down the
all the
street.
way wrapped around. And
Yep.
it still is. All the way out to the street where it blocks up traffic on Acres Mill to even get into the parking lot.
Mhm.
They're still there, rocking and rolling.
That's
Look
cool.
at there. So, guys, you've heard our conversation, my conversation with Dustin Smith, our powerhouse for today. If you are looking to get engaged to get your packaging optimized and get smart with your packaging, now is the best time to do so. So make sure you do connect with Dustin Smith on LinkedIn and also get in contact with BoldtSmith Packaging Consultants so they can come in and serve as your fractional packaging engineer team to help you optimize your packaging, find cost reduction, using data to help make informed decisions, and ultimately find the best packaging solution for your company. So, Dustin, as we wrap up, any final remarks for our listeners today?
Yeah, it was awesome. You did a fantastic job with your questions. I really enjoyed being on. And if anyone wants to learn more about BoldtSmith Packaging, just type it into Google and find us. I'm looking forward to it.
Hey, check him out because the website link will be down in the show notes, and they have some phenomenal case studies. So whether you want to learn more about what they're doing with the cheese to the submarine, they're going to have something be displayed on their case study site. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to today's segment right here on the Product and Packaging Powerhouse. Make sure you do share this with at least 5 people in your network because remember, our net worth is based upon our network. And then also make sure you hit that bell notification so you get notification of when we hit a new download, and also when we go live for a new segment. So make sure you tune in to our upcoming segment. And Dustin, thank you for being our esteemed powerhouse for today.